turn to you first, General Boykin.
Man, I hate following you and Brigitte Gabriel. Say what you mean. Don't hold back. Just say what you mean.
Give her another cup of coffee.
Get it all out. Yeah, get her another. Yeah. I thought I was ADHD.
I am not, by the way.
It's a courageous woman here. I strongly encourage you to get involved with her activities. But that said, I'm tired of hearing two things. One is we couldn't have gotten there in time, and the other one is that there was nothing available. This whole thing is not just about the lives of 4 people. This is about the character of America. This is about who we are as a nation. This is about the violation of one of our most fundamental ethos in this nation. Others have talked about it already. We don't leave people behind. Now, somebody contacted me the other day and said, well, you have said that Bo Bergdahl was a deserter, and you're not standing with the concept of you don't leave people behind. And I did a program last week on CNN where the guy that was kind of arguing against me said, we don't leave our fallen comrades. You're absolutely right, we don't. And I spent most of my 36 years doing just that, is preparing for and going after our fallen comrades. But a deserter is not a fallen comrade. And there's a big difference. Just think about the fact that we let 4 people die without any effort to rescue those people under under a notion that I don't even understand, but we just released 5 egregious criminals that are going to go back out and start killing people. They're going to run operations from Qatar and justify that for me. No, we don't leave Americans behind, those that we've put in harm's way when they are there doing the job we sent them to do. But this is an absolutely egregious situation that we violated a long-standing American value by leaving those people behind. Were there forces available? The Delta Force was created in 1978 because of the growing concern about Islamic terrorism. And finally, the final catalyst that brought this about was actually when the German GSG-9 went into Mogadishu, Somalia, and rescued a whole plane load of Lufthansa passengers from Islamic terrorists and brought them back to Germany. And that was the point at which Jimmy Carter said, I want that capability. The Israelis had done it in Entebbe, and others had done the same kind of thing, gone in and rescued hostages. And Carter said, I want that kind of force, and it was created. So the Delta Force was created to be able to go into a situation just like this and get those people. And then as a result of our failure in 1980 of trying to get the American hostages out of the embassy in Iran, a thing called the Holloway Board studied this failure and put together a joint organization to bring all the forces that were capable of doing what should have been done in Benghazi together under a single command, the United States Special Operations Command, and that was created as a result of the failures there at Desert One, as we called it. So then we got a SEAL component. We all know who they are. We got a SEAL component to be a counterpart to Delta for maritime operations. And then the aviation from both the Air Force and the Army was added on to that. Very credible, capable aviation elements to be the national force that could go and rescue Americans that were under siege. But then the combatant commands in the late 80s said, wait a minute, you're all based in America. We need capabilities in our theaters that will allow us, if we can't get you there in time, we need capabilities in our theaters to be able to do this in our own theater with forces that are under our command. And the military went to great length and great expense to create what is called the CINC, or Commander-in-Chief, in Extremis Forces. In the theater that we are talking about now, they had both a SEAL organization as well as an Army Special Forces organization, and they had the aviation to support it. They had Air Force aviation primarily, and we're talking about aviation that can move them anywhere they need to go, and none of it was used. And the reality is, Dan talked about the FEST team. As they were moving these sinking extremist forces into these theaters so that they'd be a counterpart to the national force, which was based in the continental United States. So if you couldn't get the national force, you could use whatever you had at your command, at your disposal, inside the theater. But then in Washington, they began to put together some things that I think Tom will talk about. The Foreign Emergency Support Team was one of those. And one of the most fundamental questions that needs to be asked is, who made the decision not to deploy them and why? Because if you make a decision not to deploy the Foreign Emergency Support Team, it means you're not serious about it. You have no intention of responding militarily to this situation. You're not serious. Who made that decision and why? Why did they make that decision? But there's also something else that nobody's talked about, and that's the coordinating subgroup at the National Security Council. Dan knows about this. There's a coordinating subgroup that meets on a regular basis on terrorism in general. But it is the normal practice when there is a crisis that they meet in a crisis mode. Did they ever meet during this? It carries the sort of the same connotations as far as I am concerned as not deploying the Foreign Emergency Support Team. It means they weren't serious about it. They had no intention of ever deploying any kind of military force. So I'll leave it there and we'll come back around for questions, and I'll let Tom talk to you about, okay, if we've got forces both in theater and here in the continental United States that were designed and put there to respond to this kind of situation, what happened? Why was there no response?